Welcome to the Success Shift, everybody. We're here. We cultivate entrepreneurial confidence. I am extremely excited today because we're going to give you all the things, all the tangibles, and all the lessons that you need to learn to grow your experience down your entrepreneurial path. I have the privilege today of interviewing, I'm going to call a great friend of mine, a brother. His name is Gabe Wilson. And Gabe is special and incredible in so many ways, right? And so a little bit about Gabe on my side of things. He's very developed in the mindset world. He has amazing human relation ability to be able to connect with people, talk with people, and really storytell his life so that way he can help people engage and connect to their lives. As far as everything goes, he's a business strategist and a coach. And if you are wanting to know more about Gabe, you can actually reach out to him at Instagram. And that's going to be at Gabe Wilson _23. Again, at Gabe Wilson _23. So with that being said, I'm going to stop talking about Gabe. I'm going to pass the mic over to him. Gabe, welcome, brother. Happy to have you. Tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself.
Hey, man. First off, I just want to say thank you for having me. First off, you texted me last week. You're like, hey, would you like to be on the podcast? I was like, dude, I've been wanting to be on this thing forever. Like, thank you. So I appreciate it, man. But yeah, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for having me again, Colby. And yeah, so I'm a 20-year-old business owner, entrepreneur in the financial realm, but really could touch on anything really through the experiences over the last couple of years. I've been doing this for about almost 3 years now. It's going to be pretty close to that very soon. So
wow.
Entrepreneurial space for a while. I've always wanted to do it. I grew up in a family. My mom started her own thing. My dad was always a people guy. So I attribute it all to my parents and things like that. But I'm blessed, man. I'm different in a lot of different fashions, but nothing that's special. Right? I'm different in many different ways, but nothing that's special. All that can be taught, all that can be learned, nothing that was just given to me by God. Right? So I'm blessed, man. I go to school. I've been going to school at university, at college in San Diego for the last 3 years. About to finish up next year, and I've been running the business ever since I've been in school. Right, you take time management to a whole different level when you learn how to do that stuff. So that's a little bit about me, but I'm excited to get into it today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to push the suggestion that you are a special man because first and foremost, every single human on this earth is special and meant to do something great, right? And so you are meant to do something great in your own special ability. But I believe what you're talking about is just kind of your path and what you did. Everybody has the ability to do, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, that is something I like that you said the time management to a whole nother level, battling a full-time college student, but also being a business owner and builder. And so with that being said, how did you know, man, you're 18, right? You're going to college. There's so many things probably flowing through your head at that point. Like, let's be honest, at 18, we got all these crazy ideas.
Yeah.
But what stood out to you to go the entrepreneurial path?
I was looking at the exchange of time for what I was doing. Like, what was I getting out of the time that I was using? Right. I worked all through high school. So since a freshman year in high school, I worked as a bar back at a family-owned restaurant. I worked there for 3 years. I would work every weekend. So high school, most kids go out on the weekends. That was not me. I was the one who was in the dirt. I was bar backing at 13 years old, right? Family-owned restaurant. And
wow.
I was doing that literally freshman year of high school all the way to senior year. And then senior year, I wanted to go work with some of my buddies, work with some of my friends. So I went and worked at, for anyone on the East Coast listening, Papa Gino's. It's a chain restaurant. It's kind of like Papa John's, just on the East Coast. But I worked there for a whole year, and my entire senior year, most people relax, most people chill. No, that was not me. Senior year of high school, I was taking 6 AP classes, which for anyone who doesn't know in the college world is like college level classes, just at a high school level to get credits, right? I was taking those, and then I was working 40 hours a week. I would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I would go to school from 7 to 2. I'd come home and go right into the pizza house. I would be there till 10, 11 o'clock. I closed almost every day. Had amazing managers, so thank them for just giving me a space to go to do that. But that was my senior year. And then senior year of high school, I stopped, or senior year summer, I didn't work, went to school. And my mom told me when I left, she's like, you worked your whole high school year. You saved up all this money. You're not working freshman year. You're not working freshman year of college. That lasted a month and a half. I couldn't do it. But what I couldn't do again was I couldn't trade my time for little bits amount of money, right? Like I looked at all this work that I did all through high school, and I left high school with $20,000 in cash. That's what I left high school going into college with, right? Now, for most people at 17 years old, to have 20K in cash felt like a million to us, right? Like I remember like talking with my friends, and they're all worrying about like where to go to dinner, or like where to do this, where to do that. Like me, no, I was okay. I have the money, it's there. But I looked at it took me like 2 years to amass that amount of money, right? And I bought my first car. Like my parents didn't buy nothing for me, like car wise. Like I paid for my first car, I paid for everything that I had, and I still do now. And then I got here to school, and I was like, I cannot trade another 4 years to have 20K in the bank. Like I can't do it. Like there's no way. Like I put in 40 hours a week, 9 months in a row to walk out with 20 grand. Right. And making minimum wage. And I was like, I am way better than this. And so I needed to be in a space where I could leverage more money for the same amount of time. Right. Put in the same amount of time, but get out more money. So I knew that there was nothing like that in the workplace environment without a college degree. I didn't have a college degree. I'm still going to school. So there was nothing in a workplace or in a corporate environment that would give me that ability to go to school, to make the amount of money I wanted to, but to also trade my time for more money. And so when I looked at it, I was like, I just need to be an entrepreneur. I need to start something, right? I don't even classify myself as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneur to me is someone who goes through everything and has already came out on top. Like entrepreneur to me is like a word that has to be earned. It's not just given, right? It has to be earned. So many people on Instagram and stuff want to call themselves an entrepreneur. They're not, right? They've prenewed in nothing. Okay. Right. Even though I've done it.
Solopreneur.
Yeah. Right. They're a solopreneur. Right. So for me, entrepreneur, like you could classify it as that, whatever you want. I don't consider myself one. It's just like a standard thing for me. But I knew I had to get into entrepreneurship, right? I had to get into building something for myself. And then I just needed to be put into a space that everyone needed. Everyone needed. For me, that was the financial space and helping people with finances, because I looked in the world and I was like, well, everyone needs help with the finances, right? Like money's not the most important thing, but it rules the world. Right. So for me, that was the big shift where I was like, I needed to be in a place where, one, I was in demand, not as a person, but as an industry, because the industry speaks louder than the person. Right. So as an industry. And then I knew that I could work. I've worked hard for somebody else. I could work hard for myself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you're 20 years old now, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been hustling since you were 14. You came to San Diego, and you're from where again?
Massachusetts.
From Massachusetts, came to San Diego for college, right? In a world that, you don't know, let's be honest, a kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
A kid. And that could be a scary place, man. But I almost feel like there's so many 18-year-olds out there that have that same hustle, and mindset and grind, but there's something that's just not clicking of like, hey, I'm not going to be able to obtain this without going on my own, right? What do you think that little piece is? Like how, was there something that you saw? Was there like something you read? What was that first click of like, this is why, or this, doing something on my own, that's going to make me where I want to be. Yep.
I'm going to relate it all back to time, because everything else in this world you can get back. Time you cannot. Time is the only thing you can't get back. Everything else I can get back. The houses, the cars, the money, whatever it is, you can get it all back at some point. You can get it back quick if you need to. But time you can't get back. And what I looked at was everyone when I was young always told me this: college is going to be the best years of your life. Remember the time as a kid because it's the best time of your life. My question always that I challenged, which is the big thing for anyone who's like young listening to this, you need to challenge your beliefs. You need to challenge your beliefs. Even if you're older, you need to challenge your beliefs even more, because you've been told things your whole life that you've just assumed, right? So that's a whole nother conversation. So you always need to challenge your beliefs. And one of the things I challenged was like, why is everyone who's older telling me the best times were 20 years ago? Like their kids' birthdays weren't the best times. Their marriages weren't the best times. Their vacation, like all of these critical life events that we are told are the most important were not the best times of their life. It was when they were drunk, barely understanding what the Friday was.
Wow.
Like that was the best time. Like, wow. That's crazy to me. So to me, it was just understanding like this is not the best time. It's the best time because it's the time that they felt that they had the least responsibility.
Mm,
You talk to any wealthy person, like who's really wealthy. I think there's a difference between rich and wealthy. Me and my dad talk about this all the time, right? When you talk to anyone who's wealthy, and like you know who the wealthy ones are, right? Like you can tell. They're not stressed. They're not saying that like college in 19 was the best times of their life. You know why? Because they don't have responsibility. They do, but they don't because it's so out of their mind because they make enough money. There's so much wealth there that they don't even have to think about it, right? So for me, it was understanding because everyone would tell me, oh, you have time. You have time to figure it out. You have time to learn what you want to do. Yeah, that's true. But when you realize that you don't have time, like, no, I don't have time. No, like there is no time. The time was gone. It was yesterday. When you realize you don't have time, you then become urgent, right? Urgency, like there's an emergency, right? We say it all the time in business, right? Urgency, like there's an emergency. One of my favorite quotes from one of our coaches, he goes, casual people become casualties. So don't act casually, right? People act casually with their time all the time, right? So for me, it was understanding that I didn't have time. I was young and had no time. I knew
yeah.
it had to be tomorrow. Couldn't be in 5 years. I didn't have time to figure it out. No, it was, you got it. It's now, right now. Don't wait. Because the longer you wait, the more you're just delaying what you can get. It's that, and it's not a microwave mentality. It's constant grind. It's constant baking it in the oven, but in a sense that if I set the oven for 4 hours, it's going to take 4 hours because I lowered the heat. But what if I raise the heat and get the same outcome?
Yeah.
I cooked it in less time though, even though it tastes just as good. Trust me, lasagna in a crock pot tastes just as good as lasagna in the oven, but one cooks a lot faster.
That's a great analogy. You said something honestly that blew my mind because I didn't go to college. I went military work route, right? But you said something that blew my mind. People say your best days were in college, so enjoy them. And let's dissect that for a moment. What a crazy mindset that is. You're telling me that your entire life, the best days were up till you're 24 years old and the rest of your life isn't as great? Like, what? You got 60, 70, 80, 90, like, screw it, 90 more years in you, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, those are the best days? Are you kidding me? Wow. That, honestly, that blew my mind right there. Like, you said that, and I was like, holy crap. That's so true. And I'm gonna honestly like challenge people to break down the beliefs for that because like you look at that and because 85% of people are saying enjoy college, it's your best days, enjoy it, right? There is a mentality of my best days are right now in college and it's not going to get any better than this and I got to start the workforce.
Right. Like people dread,
That
like I'm talking to people now. Sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but
you're
like
good.
people around me, they're all junior, seniors in college because that's what I am, right? And they're all like, oh, the work, like I'm not ready to go to work, like work, work, work. They're literally dreading. People are like, oh, it's so sad. We're getting out of school in 2 years. Like, no, like this is exciting. I'm like, man, I'm gonna free up 6 more hours in my day. Like, are you kidding me? This is great. Another thing within that too, the best days of your life. Think about how much growth you underwent as a person from the age of 0 to the age of 20. You learned how to walk, you learned how to talk, you learned how to read, you learned how to write, you learned how to add, subtract, you learned how to communicate, you learned how to like look, gesture, hand motions, you learned how to literally do millions of things. How come people don't grow as much in 20 to 40?
Mm.
Right? You literally learned how to become a person from 1 to 20. Why are we living with the mentality that we can't grow as much from 20 to 40?
How much growth do you think you've taken on in 3 years?
A lot. A lot. I'm 20 by age, but not in heart. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm like 50 to 60. No, there's a lot of wisdom that comes with that through experience, right? I would say I'm probably upper 30s, maybe low 40, right? Because there's still some things that I talk to my parents about and I don't understand, right? Because they
Right.
have more experience, right?
Right.
My parents are mid 40s, so I wouldn't say that I'm at that level yet. But I would say in terms of thought process, 30s, but with the ability to challenge my beliefs like a 19-year-old. Because when you're 30, most people don't challenge their beliefs, right?
I don't think 19-year-olds challenge their beliefs.
I think it's just because it's not talked about. I don't think
No,
it's
it's
because
not.
it's just because they think that it's something that they're not supposed to do.
Well, you gotta think they have their family, their loved ones, the parents, the brothers, the sisters, their friends, all telling them the same thing. Enjoy your college years, right? There's no challenging of beliefs. It is. I was actually, who was I listening to? Grant Cardone. I was listening to Grant Cardone's podcast this morning. And he was literally talking about this. He's like, everybody you know and love is sitting there telling you, let's get real. Let's be reasonable. Hey, it's okay to be in this stage of life. And it
Be
is
realistic.
be realistic, right? It is literally lowering down our standards, right? Lowering our standards of what we should expect for ourselves at a neurological, unconscious level that we don't even understand. And now this is natural for us to have this limiting belief that it is okay to be at this stage when you can go up here.
Yeah. Like people see it as condescending, but for anyone who's ever watched the show Suits, right? Harvey Specter says something right at the beginning of the show, right? He goes like this. He goes, life is this, right? Putting his hand below his head. He goes, and I like this, putting his hand above his head. And so many people, when they see that, and you're like, oh, I like Harvey Specter. They're like, oh, so you like being arrogant, too confident, and being too direct. It's like, no. I like being able to challenge the world and being able to pull my best capabilities out of myself. It's how you look at it, right? Like the world is here. But if you want here, you can get it. You can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I started watching Suits, I don't know, like 8 months ago or something like that, and I got hooked on it because of Harvey Specter, right? And there's so many little quotes you can take from him and break down into a linear level, right? So at 20 years old, you're making a $10,000-$20,000 a month cash flow, right? Doing more than most 19, 20-year-olds could even imagine. But I'm not even going to put that limit on there because it could be higher, right?
And to be honest with you,
I
feel like we're short. To be honest with you, like I feel like we do nothing where we're at now. And it's crazy to think of it like that because I should be so much further than we are.
Well, that's because your mind's further than where you are, right? You don't have those limiting beliefs of like, this is all I can do. This is okay. This is acceptable. This is what I should be following. And your mind is going through the roof. Hey, how can I change human mankind and make a difference and be a change, right? So that's really important. And I love that factor. Most 20-year-olds don't think and process like you do. And that's why, like, with our age difference, I feel like we can be friends and talk because I don't feel like I'm talking to a 20-year-old, right? Your experience, your mindset, your mentality is at a far higher level. But with that being said, there are so many people that are 19, 20 years old that want to do what you do, right? And have that type of cash flow. And I want to be an entrepreneur, right? Because of social media and all that. But like, there's an actual grind to it. You're a full-time student. So can you talk about that a little bit? Talk about like your schedule and that grind.
Yeah, so I'll speak on all of that because you brought up so much stuff that I love to talk about. Like, for example, like your friends, right? I tell people all the time, my best friends, my 5 closest best friends are all married and have kids. And people are like, what? Like, what friends do you have? Like, that's what they think, right? Because they think they're all 19 and have kids. Like, no, all my friends are 28, 30, 35 years old, married, have kids, great relationships, everything that I want in my life, right? Why wouldn't you surround yourself with people you want? So number one, when you're so young, everyone tells you if you are in a space where you're listening to a podcast like this, you want to grow, right? So you want to grow. So you've probably heard this phrase that you are a summation of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yet why do you continue to surround yourself with people you don't want to be like?
Yes.
Right? Everyone hears this. When you're in this space, it's the first thing you hear, right? You are a summation of the 5 people you hang around. Show me your friends, I show you your future. Yet you're still hanging around with people you don't want to be like. People ask me all the time, Gabe, don't you hang around like people you don't want to be like? Yeah, but I see potential in them. I see potential in them. I see things that they just don't see in themselves yet because of the limiting beliefs that society's put on them. Right? I can see past that with them. So I know it's there. So that's just that little tidbit on that. But from a schedule standpoint, you got to understand if you are in school or whatever you're doing, it's a grind all day, every day. There is not a sleeping second in the day. Like, to be honest with you, I hate sleep. I think it's a waste of time. Someone's like, you need 8 hours of sleep. Break it down into like this. If you sleep 8 hours a day, there's only 24 hours in a day, which means you're sleeping a third of your day, which means if I live to 60, I only actually live 20 years. Because you usually sleep 8 hours, you work 8 hours, the rest of the 8 hours is for you. Right? So normal life, that's a normal corporate lifestyle, right? Sleep 8, work 8, rest is 8. So meaning I really only live 20 years. Right? Or if I use all 16 hours for work or whatever it is, right? I only lived for 16 years, right? Or whatever it is, like 2/3 of the time. So when I learned that, I was like, I'm losing a third of my life to sleep. It's crazy to me. I'll do it for the recovery and the health because you need to sleep. I'm not saying don't sleep, right? But I figured like I studied sleep. The first study I ever did was sleep. I like before mindset and everything like that, I studied sleep because I realized that nothing was achievable without having good sleep and good recovery.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I studied sleep. And then when I studied sleep, I learned about sleep cycles, right? And REM cycles and how you go into deep and up and in and out. And the reason you're tired when you wake up is because you're coming out of sleep on a down line, on a decline cycle. So for example, like if you're peaking and you're coming down, the reason you wake up tired is because you're coming down on your cycle. So what you need to do is figure out when you're coming up on your cycles, because your sleep cycles don't change. They're inherent to you. They're individual, right? And you have to figure out when you're coming up on your sleep cycle so that you wake up with more energy, right? It's why like you can sleep 10 hours and still feel groggy when you wake up, but you can sleep 3 and feel like super excited, right? It's not because you got less or more sleep. It's just because of where you woke up on your sleep cycle. So what I did for a year was literally just try to figure out what my sleep cycle was. For me, it's 3 hours. I go through cycles every 3 hours. They recommend you go through 2 cycles. So guess how many hours I sleep? 6. Right? Some people, their sleep cycles are 4. So they go through 8 hours of sleep. That's usually why the average sleep is 8 to 10 hours, right? Babies are different. This is usually something you can't figure out until like you're like grown and like developed a little bit. Obviously, you're not developed at 19 to 20 anyways, but still. So the first study I did was sleep because that was killing most of my day and time. Then I figured out, okay, 6 hours is optimal for me. And don't get me wrong, guys, I still sleep 8 to 10 hours some days. Okay. You get exhausted, right? There is like it exists. Okay. But on average, I'll sleep six hours a day, typically. Like 29 of the 30 days of the year, I will sleep 6 hours a day. And then after that, I wake up and you gotta go to the gym. You have to, not even just the gym, you have to do something that physically moves your body in a positive way. Because a strong body is a strong mind. You just feel better when you're healthy. You do.
Yeah.
When you eat a burger that's super greasy, like it's fun while you're doing it, but then afterwards, like you lean back, you're like, oh my God. Right? Like you're like, oh, I'm stuffed. But then you eat like a salad or you eat something like I love Chipotle, right? You eat like something good from Chipotle, you are filled, but you're not stuffed. You're not like, I have to waddle around. Like you can still walk. So you need to be healthy and you need to have a strong body because it's just going to make you more confident in your day. It's just going to make you more confident today. And also, this was huge. I heard this literally like 2 weeks ago from Andy Elliott. For anyone who doesn't know Andy Elliott, he's very straightforward, very direct. And he said, he goes, I trust someone more if they're in better shape. Yeah. He's like, because there's an unconscious level of respect that I have for you, even if I'm not healthy, that you are healthy. Because I know that you didn't just inherently have that.
Yeah.
Like there's a level of dedication, work, consistency, discipline that goes into having a physique, which means I just inherently have more respect for you unconsciously, not because of who I am. It's just an unconscious thing in our minds that we understand and give levels of respect to things that are hard. Being in really good shape is hard. It's not easy, right? So number one is shape. Some people might take you more seriously. I'm not in the best shape of my life. No way, nowhere near it. But I've been getting better ever since I learned that, right? So sleep was number one. Sleep about 6 hours. I'll wake up early in the morning because the mornings are very quiet. Nobody wants to wake up early in the morning. Very, very, very quiet. When I used to live, so in Massachusetts, I lived in a small town, about 6,000 people, right? Total. So when you would wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, there was nobody on the road. Nobody was awake. Like there was 0 cars. Like I could drive from my house to the gym, which was like 3 to 5 miles. And there would be, I would see 1 to 2 cars, 1 to 2, like nobody. So inherently in your mind, you just feel like you're doing more than people. But then you come to a city like this in San Diego, you wake up at 4 in the morning here, it feels like everybody's awake.
Oh, yeah, it's busy.
It's busy. You drive to like look at the city. Like I'm like 10 minutes out of the city and I have to drive towards it to get to the gym You go look, the city is lit up, like apartment buildings lit completely. And you're like, how early did they wake up? Like what? Like, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball. And that level of competition was what I needed, because it was like, it felt like I was always doing more than everyone else. So it felt like I was at the top. Then I got here and it was like, wow, everyone is smoking me in every area that I think of. Right. So that's the mornings, wake up early. Then for me now, being in school, I'll go to class. I only take classes from 7 to noon. I'll only take classes from 7 to noon. I won't take classes after that, because after that's working. That's business hours. That's when the most is done, from 12 to 10. Right. So I'll only go to class from 8 to noon, and do that. I'll do my personal development in the morning for about an hour. Right. So from like 6:30 to 7:30. Guys, schedule out time for personal development. Like, seriously, schedule out time. Same thing at the night. Like 30 minutes before I go to bed, I read for 30 minutes. My personal development in the morning is not reading. It's audios, it's podcasts, it's journaling, it's the gym. Like, gym is personal development. You can make it like that. Okay. Then I'll go to class and then I'm working. And the biggest advantage that I took from was time zones. Nobody ever thinks about this. Take advantage of the time zones, guys. If it's 12 o'clock here, it's 3 o'clock in the East Coast, which means that my meetings from 12 to 3 need to be East Coast meetings. I can't make them West Coast meetings, because West Coast people I can still meet with the rest of the day. This is when people are getting off of work. So my 12 to 3 o'clock meetings need to be East Coast calls or Central calls, because it's later in their day, right? Then it was, okay, then what about from 3 to 6? Well, that's Pacific time. That's Pacific and Mountain time right there. Or some of your late, like, West Central coasters. That's using your Pacific time. So connect with people in the Pacific coast. And then what about like 9 to 10 or 6 to 9, 6 to 10? That's either your Pacific people, your really late East Coasters who work morning or who work like during the day, or Hawaii time, right? And if you utilize all the time zones, you're kind of bending time. You're creating more time in your day, because now you're not working with just one group of people. Like, I've had days where I've had the same time for 4 different meetings, just different time zone. Yeah. It's like meeting at one, meeting at one, meeting at one, meeting at one. You know, you've had it before. I guarantee it. Right. But it's all different time zones. I feel like I'm bending time. So I was able to be more productive in my day. So all those things is kind of what pertain to my schedule. That's what my schedule looks like. It's to a T. I wake up at 4. I go to the gym. I go to class. I do my personal development, obviously, before class to get right for the day. I go to class. I come back and it's right to work. Like, I texted you, like at 12 o'clock. We started this at 12:30. I texted you. You were like, hey, are you hopping on? And I was like, yeah, I'm in class right now. Right. I got out at 12. I got out at 12:10. I was here at 12:30. Now we're running this. Right. Like, right into work. Like, I know exactly what I have. I know exactly what meetings I have today. I know everything because I set it up in the morning. I'm intentional about it. And then tonight it will be personal development. I'll read 30 minutes before I go to sleep. And I'll go to sleep. And call this a negative, call it a positive. Social media can be a negative thing or it can be a positive thing. Depends on what's on your social media. For anyone listening, you know if your social media is positive or negative. You do.
Yes.
Right? Whatever you're making excuses for is what's hurting you the most. You know if your social media is hurting you or giving you growth. Okay. For me, it hurts me in some areas, but it also is very growth oriented. You scroll through my TikTok, it is all motivation and growth. Like, everything, all motivation, all growth. Like, I got David Goggins yelling at me every time I scroll on my TikTok. So if that's things that are filling into my mind instead of this aimlessly scrolling stuff, think about the difference in level of mindset that I'm going to have looking at things. I sent this to one of my friends, one of my best friends in the world. His name is Dimitri. I sent this to him yesterday. It was this quote. I was listening to a Shia LaBeouf podcast, The Real Ones. And if you've never listened to it, guys, go listen to it. It is game changing. If you're ever going through something tough, it's game changing.
It's called The Real Ones.
I think it's, The Real Ones podcast. Yeah, Real Ones with Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, and I don't get plugged for that. So I'm just saying, like, genuinely, like, that's a good podcast to listen to. But he said, I never knew how to pray because I could never cultivate silence. Every unforgiving minute was filled with some meaningless scroll.
Wow.
And I was like, Wow, that's so powerful. Because how many people are just unmeaningfully scrolling through their feeds, just taking in other people's point of views, taking in other people's perspectives, other people's lives, and they're not actually using it for their own.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's huge. So if I ever scroll on social media, like before bed or something, like right before I go to bed, I scroll on like TikTok for like 5 minutes, right? Because reading to me, it's like I'm working when I'm reading, right? And you know what I'm talking about, right? So I scroll on
Yeah.
TikTok for like 5 minutes before I go to bed, but my whole TikTok is all growth, all motivation, all power. So as I'm going to sleep, like I'm getting fired up. And what you set your intentions for before you sleep is what you wake up with intentions for. That's what I learned in my study of sleep was what you think about as you go to sleep is what you're going to wake up knowing, wake up feeling, wake up wanting. You can create your own dreams by what
Yeah.
you're thinking about before you go to sleep. So if that's what I'm thinking about right before I'm going to sleep, like think of how I'm waking up. Different, different. Very little things that most people, not 19 to 20, but anybody thinks about. Nobody
Yeah.
thinks. Never. So long answer to your question. I apologize.
It's all right. That's
But
good.
but that's the rundown. That's how I operate. That's my day.
That's amazing, man. I hope, honestly, that, like you said, there's a long way to the answer, but there was definitely takeaways. And for each person that's listening or watching this, pull from it. How can you utilize it in your own aspect of your life and your world? Whether you're an entrepreneur or wanting to be an entrepreneur, just trying to get through college and be a better person, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, right? Take from it. But Gabe, down in on like where you're at in life, right? 20 years old, fresh 20 at that, really.
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
years old, 20 years old, making a $10,000, $20,000 a month income, cash flowing in a business that you're running and operating, and have total control over.
Yeah.
Talk to me about being a young business person trying to get their feet wet. Talk to me about maybe the struggles or the times that you like fell down and you're like, dude, uh, maybe it's my age, right? Like, talk to me about those times. Tell people how you experienced that and what it maybe was in a detailed point.
Yeah.
But what was the one thing that shifted to say, screw this, nope, we're good, and we're chugging along, and now you're where you are?
Yeah. So there are going to be so many points that you get kicked in the face. Like so many points. So many. And the reason I say kicked in the face, not punched in the face, is because you can see a punch coming. Kicks never see coming. Right. So there are so many times you get kicked in the face. I think it's because of my leadership, because my mentor, he was 19 when he started too. So I think I was always primed getting into business with the ability that my age isn't a problem, to be honest with you. So I never saw my age as a problem just because I lived off the quote for my first 6 months of business, which was age is only a problem in the absence of value. Right? Age is only a problem in the absence of value. So what I did was just work to increase my knowledge and my value. So there was never a question if my age was my limiting belief because my mentorship raised me that way, right? Like that's how I was brought in, was from the standpoint like day one, my age doesn't matter. I'm 40 years old with a mortgage, 2 kids, a white picket fence, and an avid member of the church. Like that's what I was told literally day one of starting business was I'm a 40-year-old married with 2 kids, like white picket fence, like avid member of the church, right? Like I could say it 1,000 times over because it's ingrained in my head. So that was never, I think, a problem. Or like something that I thought of, like maybe it's my age. There was definitely many defining points where it was like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just like go back to the 19-year-old lifestyle. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like it's not easy.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not.
Like you will sacrifice everything. Everything you think you have right now will be gone. The
Yeah.
friends I had in the first 2 months before I started business, I don't have. I have one, my girlfriend. That's it. Right. The friends I had in high school, I only talked to 2 of them because they're my ride or dies, to be honest with you. Which I wished I talked to more of them, to be honest with you. I do. I still love them. It's not that I don't like them, any of us, right? Like I still love every one of them. It's just people don't see eye to eye with your grind, with your hustle. People asking you to go out. You're like, no, I can't. I got this business I gotta run. And they don't
Learn to say no to everything. That's a hard thing to do.
No is a powerful word. Once you learn how to do it, you become unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
No is a powerful word because I'm okay inconveniencing other people's for their better convenience, like for them to make them better. And I needed to then do that in my own life. I needed to be okay inconveniencing other people for my own benefit, for my own like sanity, and not inconveniencing in a sense that hurt them, but inconveniencing in a sense that they didn't like we didn't get to hang out. Um,
Do you think, and I don't mean to cut you off, but do you, like you said there's a few times that you thought to yourself, because we all do, let's be honest, we all
you
have
all
those
do
moments.
always.
Yeah. What was one of the biggest ones where it was a real like you felt on the downward slope, and you
Now,
just literally questioned yourself if I don't know.
there
What was
were
what was the big one?
there were two huge points, two huge ones. The first one was I had built a business to about 15 to 20 agents, employees. Right? I built a business to about 10 to 15. We were doing like just over like $10,000 in revenue a month, right? Not cash flow. It wasn't really huge yet, right? It's $4,000 or $5,000 a month here and there, right? Which for some people, by the way, that's a lot, right? For some people, that's their whole salary. In our world, it wasn't. And they all quit on me in a day.
All in a day?
All in a day. I think it was a coordinated attack. I hold nothing against them. I still love all of them. Some of them are still clients of mine. I love them to this day. So if you're listening, I still love you. But yeah, 10 to 15 dropped in a day. In a day. And it was like hour by hour since the day I woke up. So I remember on Saturday, I had a full week booked, like 40 hours of work ready to roll. Meetings, like with clients too. Like it was going to be a good week. I was hyped that we're going to do our monthly revenue in a week. And by Sunday, I had no appointments left on the calendar for the week.
Wow.
So Saturday, I had a full pack schedule, 40 hours of work. Sunday, I had, I think, one meeting. And it was with my mentor. So it was my call. Right. So literally in 24 hours, I lost it all, lost everything. And I looked at it and I was like, dude, I could have built like 4 months of work went into building that too. And we're back to level 1. And what you got to realize though, is that you're not back at level 1, you're at level 3. Because when you started, you were at level 1 and you grew and you learned so much throughout that whole process. So when you're
at level 1 of a new you, which is a better version.
Exactly.
Of you. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you're at a different version. Right. Then I built it again and we were good and we were rocking and rolling. And then in November of last year, I looked at it and I was like, I've been in this business, man, for a year. It's like, I've been in business for a year. I've been in entrepreneurship for 2 years. And to everyone who thinks like, oh, he's making 20K, it happened overnight success. Like, no, my first year of business, guys, I made $12,000 in a year. We're talking about
talk about the hours spent though, making $12,000.
Oh my God. And we're talking about a lot of hours to make I was working a full-time job and made 12 grand in a year. In a year. We're talking about $1,000 a month. You could make more working minimum wage. If you broke down my hour to like income ratio, it was probably $2 an hour.
If that.
And
you're probably charging yourself.
Literally. And I made $12,000 in a year and nobody knew that, right? To everyone else, it was success. It was growth. It was everything, right? Because you got to learn how to bleed and smile at the same time, right? For anyone in leadership, you got to learn how to bleed and smile at the same time.
But let's talk about that for a second. Okay. I want to separate that fact of reality because at a personal level, you have to bleed and smile at the same time because you have to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going and you're not smiling and bleeding at the same time, then you're only going to think about where you're at, which is the hardship, the struggle, right? The grit, the grind, the things that nobody wants to do. So yes, you smile and bleed at the same time because you know where you're going mentally.
Mm-hmm.
But for everyone listening right now, everyone that's smiling and bleeding at the same time on social media, don't confuse the smile with 100% success because there's probably a bleeding. And so it is okay to bleed. Like we're not saying fake it, right? But you for yourself have to know where you're going. So screw social media for a point of it. You're smiling and bleeding for yourself because you have to trust yourself on where you're going. You have to believe in yourself on the future. And I really wanted to separate that factor because I know that's exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
But there's so much of the fluff, the cloud, the rainbow and sunshine on social media, where it makes people feel like when they're bleeding, they're not in the right place, but you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Right.
Exactly.
So sorry, keep going, brother.
No, and you're exactly right. That's exactly what I meant. And so I get to November and I made 12,000 in a year, and I'm like, dude, like this might not be for me. I might have to try a different industry. And I was always one of those people where it's like I can always bet on myself. Like I take care of so many people because so many people don't have me. People are always like, Gabe, why do you care for people? Because they don't have me, and I know that I can get through whatever it is that I need to get through. But most people, I don't know if they're like me. So I need to be there for them, because if they don't have someone like me, they might never get through what they're going through. Right. So for me, it was always, I knew I could believe in myself because I knew I had me. There was never a question of it. I had myself. And so it was two options. You could quit, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. And for a year, I was telling people like, this is it. I'm going to make it. Like, this is my thing. This is it. And if I quit, what was the reputation I was going to have, not only just with myself, but with the people around me.
Everybody that thought you were going to quit anyways.
Right. Everyone, I was proving everyone who thought I was going to quit anyways wrong or right. Right.
If you did quit. Yeah.
Did quit. And this vision that I was promising to my parents, to my family, like I told my parents, I was like, what do you want? I asked them. I said, what do you want? They're like, what do you mean? What do I want? I said, what do you want? My mom and my stepdad told me, they're like, we just want to have a small house in Hawaii for my mom to help people with, because she's a therapist, to help people with their problems. And for Jeff, my stepdad, to make trinkets on the beach. Right. And for my dad and my stepmom at the time, it was, they wanted a winery in San Francisco. Right. And my little brother wanted to go to Africa. Right. Because he was 7 at the time. And, right. He wants to go to Africa. And my other brother, Nolan, he wants a private jet. And Tyler, he would want anything, to be honest with you. He would just want to spend more time with me. And so these things that I asked them that they wanted, it was not that I was quitting on myself. I was quitting on them. I was quitting on everything I ever promised them. And so I couldn't do that because they're my family. They're the people that love me unconditionally. Right. So I couldn't do that. So immediately quitting's gone. Like right after I thought about that, like I had my own pity party for like 2 days, and then like that was gone. Like done right there. And then I talked to the guy who trained me. His name's Renee Soriano. And we talked for an hour at Chris's house, right? Talked for an hour, and everyone was gone on a retreat that I didn't qualify for, that I was pissed because all my best friends qualified and I didn't qualify. And he's like, dude, at one point, you just got to like stop thinking you have time. He's like, you don't have any more time. You're late. Everyone's moving without you and you're not moving. Like you're late. And he's like, just because you're young doesn't mean you have time. I said, okay. And I was fired up. I left that conversation. In a month, I did exactly what I did in a year. The next month in December, I did more in revenue and cash flow than I did in a year. The year prior. I became a junior broker 3 months after that conversation in February. So it was December, January, February. And I crossed my first 10K in income in July. Yet 10K in income per month, by the way, like 10K in a month, right? July. But in November, I had only made 12K in a year. Right. And so there was many struggles, many times where I was like, this is it. But your why has to be bigger than the struggle. Right. For any of you who are listening, go watch the Buster Douglas video on YouTube. He talks about how the week, or I think it was maybe the week or the month before Buster Douglas went to go fight Mike Tyson, his mom died. And his mom the whole time was saying that he was going to knock out Mike Tyson. He was going to knock out Mike Tyson. He was going to knock him out. And when Buster Douglas got knocked down, and I think it was like the 5th or the 6th round, he had two options: stay down or get up. But his why was greater than that punch. The why was greater than that hit, and he got up. And the next round, he knocked Mike Tyson out. Everyone thought that it was over at that point. And he put him on the ground. No one had ever put Mike Tyson down. No one had ever gotten up and put him down, right? I almost just reiterated the whole video. So go watch it because it's a little more intense when Les Brown says it. But it was that. It was my why was greater than my defeat. I was man enough to say, hey, this is where I am, but it's not where I'll always be.
Yeah. 100%. That's powerful, man. That really is. Your why has to be strong because there are going to be times that you're at the ground, right? And so your why is what pulled you out. I can't believe it's already been over half an hour since we've been talking. Time just flies, man. It really does.
Seriously.
Uh, honestly, brother, I mean, man, I know what you bring and just what you've came through and you have an entire story and we're probably gonna have to have you back on for another time for another story, right?
Yeah.
But I want you in your position at 20 years old, for anybody that is 18, 19, 21, 20, 20, 22, whatever it may be, and that are listening to this right now and feeling like, okay, this guy's my age. What did he do to get there? Like, if you can just provide people or provide everyone that's listening, and honestly, like I'm gonna even say because of your mindset, it doesn't even matter if they're 20. You could be 30 years old right now and getting extreme value from understanding the power of your why and understanding all the factor of the grit that you've gone through. But for everybody listening that's trying to get to that next level, how would you suggest if you could provide them like three take action right now, immediate, like take action as quick as instruction, like what would you give them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So three things. I'm going to try to do them in order for you so that you can attack them in this order. So if I backtrack a little bit, I apologize. It's just I'm trying to give it to you in the right order. The first one is you need to write down and put in front of you a schedule. A schedule. A hour or minute by minute schedule. Like I wake up at 4, I'm in the gym at 4:05. I'm showering at 4:10. I'm doing this at 4:15. I'm lifting this at 5:30. Like whatever, how detailed you need to be that detailed. Now, when you're making your schedule though, do not fill it with fluff. Okay, dinner should not be on the schedule. Lunch should not be on the schedule. Shower should not be on the schedule. Okay, like you don't need 45 minutes to shower and get ready. Okay, those are fluff. We can do those whenever. Okay, the things that need to be on the schedule is like, this is my work time. This is my personal growth time. This is what I'm doing. This is my work schedule, right? Map out your day, right? If you have a family, put in your family time.
Yeah.
Quality time over quantity time.
Actually, that's a perfect, I love that you said that. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but like, if you have a family, you got to put in that quality time. And so for me, like I even had a conversation with my wife, right? Like, hey, when can I have quality time with my family? We decided we were never a family that like had dinner at a time, right? Or like together at that. But we said like, hey, at 6:30 for 30 minutes, the phone stays in the office, dinner will be ready on the table. We're all eating dinner, right? And so for you, if you don't have a family and you don't have that quality time yet, yeah, you eat dinner when you eat dinner. And I did that for a long time. Don't get me wrong. My first year in business, dinner was being brought to me at my office, right? So, but if you do have a family, quality time is important, and that dinner may be your quality time. And so section that as your quality time. But yeah, no, keep going, brother. I love it.
Yeah. So schedule, exactly like Kobe said, like every place you're at in life is different. So this is going to be different for everybody. So just understand what is fluff and what's not fluff. The way you determine what's fluff is, can I do this at any hour of the day, or does it have to be done right now? Can this be done at any hour? Or do I have to do it right now? Right? Family time is never negotiable because you have to do it at certain times, especially if you have kids. Like sometimes your kids are at school, so your family time can't be at noon time. It has to be at 8. Okay.
Right.
So can I do this at any other hour or no? So number one is a schedule. Number two is you have to realize that the people you're around currently are not going to be who you're around in the future. That is a really hard realization, but you cannot be scared of that. Because when you're scared of it, you're giving room for the adversary to work in your life. To some people, it's the devil. To some people, whatever your beliefs are, right? But the adversary is just a common term, right? The person working against you. When there is fear, they are present. And if you're operating out of being fearful or being scared, you're not operating at your right frequency. And frequency travels through people. It's like when you meet someone and you're like, oh yeah, I just love that person. If you ever met someone, you're just like, oh, I like them. Like they're cool, right? It's because you're both operating at the same frequency, at the same energy level. And when you're operating out of fear, what do you attract? The same energy level. So you're attracting people in the same mindset, right? Like we all have our friends who know they're like, my goldfish died. It's raining out yesterday. I got up on the left side of my bed, but it's okay. I'm happy, right? Like we all know that person, right? That's what you attract when you're in that energy. So that's number one, is you have to be okay with losing people. And it's not losing people like I don't love you still. It's just I'm going here, and if you're not willing to go here, then we're gonna separate our relationship.
Love you from a distance.
Exactly. But know that that you're going to develop new connections. You're going to
Yeah.
develop friendships that you're going to love even more. Right. So that, and then the third one is you just got to do it. Like you just genuinely need to do everything. You can't shy away from the work. You can't assume it's going to happen overnight. You have to understand that there is a period of grinding. Like there is a period of harvesting. Like and you ask any wealthy person, they'll tell you it's like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like it's like 5 years of everything you got. And I have the same reaction as you. I say easy, no problem. I can give you 5 years because I look at it like, oh, then I'm 23, 25, sick, right? But if like you're like 40, like 5 years to you seems like an eternity. Because you're like, I'm 40, 45, man. I'm supposed to be retired in 2 years, like 20 years. Well, let me ask you this. 5 years of everything you have for the rest of your life available for your family, or 20 years of just some of you so they can get some of you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
For me, I'll do 5 years with everything I have. If I have to lose everything in those 5 years, then I have to lose it all. But at least I have the rest of my life to get it all back. So you got to understand.
I love that you said that. That keyed in something I was listening to. To be honest, I cannot remember who said it. But there was a story of this business person. And he didn't know what he did at the time, but he came into a restaurant, sat down, and while he was waiting for his friend to show up, his waitress was serving him. And he asked her how her day was, started talking to her for a moment. And she said that she was doing good. She was just she was battling. Do I want to go? I think I don't remember if it was nursing school, whatever it may be. Do I want to go to nursing school to better my life? But I'm 23. If I do that, it's gonna be 5 years. I'll be 28, right? And then I'll be 28 at that point. Like I'm 28, yada yada. And then he stopped and he said, "Okay, well, in 5 years you're gonna be 28 regardless. So are you gonna be 28 with a nursing degree, or are you gonna be 28 without a nursing degree? Just make the decision." And then his friend showed up, so it cut off the conversation. But he said that a couple months later, he went back in there, and again, he didn't know what he did, but he went back in there, and she saw him, ran up to him, and gave him a hug, and she said, "You have no idea how much you changed my life. Today's my last shift. I'm going to nursing school."
Yeah.
Right. And so just that factor, like I love that you said, just do it. Right. You can be in any season of your life; it doesn't matter. But if you're like, oh my gosh, that's 5 years of everything I got, like that's a lot. Well, in 5 years is going to be here no matter what in 5 years. And so you're either going to be in the exact same position that you are right now in 5 years, or you're going to be in a total different one. The choice is yours. Either way, 5 years is coming. Which way do you want to go about it?
Exactly. And when I mean just do it, for anyone who's young, this is going to hit for the young people because so many people that are older, they're like, personal development is different for me. If you are young, you need to dive deep into understanding how people think. Deep understanding. You need to study leadership. You need to study skills. You need to study business. You need to study like your life depended on it. If you don't like to read, I'm sorry, you got to figure it out. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I'm going to say that's for everybody though, not even young people, because Ed Milet, Grant Cardone, Alex Hormozy, Alex is young, but Ed Milet, Grant Cardone, like, they all still personally develop and to understand human mind better. There's another level at every level.
Yeah, you have to. You got to look at books in a different way. Books are not just stories to be told. Books is wealth of knowledge. Like think of it like this. Like T. Harv Eker wrote a great book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, where he describes all the ways that millionaires think. Think about that. Powerful, right?
I'm gonna one up that even. Like I love that book, but I'm gonna one up that. Let's think about Napoleon Hill, who's dedicated his entire life,
like
to knowing how wealthy think. Yeah,
like Napoleon Hill's a great example. I'm glad that you brought that up. I couldn't think of him. Napoleon Hill's a great example. That man dedicated his life's work to writing like 2 books. He wrote a lot of books, but like writing 2 main books, right? Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil, right?
Yeah.
You are taking his life's work and putting it into a month read. You just learned what a guy learned in 60 years in a month, in 30 days. Imagine if you did that in like school.
And his life work was studying the most wealthiest people on the planet.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like
it's powerful.
you got to look at reading and personal development a whole different way. If you don't like to read, audiobooks. Okay. You don't like audiobooks, podcasts. This is a great example right here. Okay. Like you need to intensely develop your personal growth. And you're going to see as a person, the people around you, they're either going to grow with you or you're going to grow apart. You don't need to be growing as fast
Yes.
as I am. You just need to be growing in some way, shape, or form.
100%. 1% better every day.
Exactly. And right, it's 1% better every day. I've been using this analogy so much. Whereas if you started in England or you started in Boston and you wanted to head to England, but you changed your sail by 1 degree, you would end up in Africa
Ooh,
because it's compounded over time.
yeah.
So even though it's 1 degree, 1%, one thing, over time it compounds. Because
Yes. I love that analogy.
if I just do like one extra page than you today, I'm going to read 365 more pages. I'm going to read an extra book,
Yeah,
which
an entire extra book.
higher extra book, which means if I read an extra book a year, that means I'm reading an extra 60 books in my life.
And that's depending on the book. Like that's a Think and Grow Rich book, but you talk maybe like a let's call it a Maxwell book, right?
That's
Like
three.
that's 200 pages max. You know, you're reading two more books.
Yeah.
Per
So
year.
I'm almost doing more than you in a shorter period of time.
Yeah. That's such a great analogy. I absolutely love that. And 1% better each and every day, one more, right? It's such a great analogy and thing to live by. Gabe, brother, I would just want to first and foremost thank you for coming on, man. I knew today was gonna be incredible. I was literally compounding in my mind. I was like how's today gonna go? Like, and then it clicked on me. I was like, dude, like his age, like today's gonna be great, but it went even farther than that, right? Like this projected so much strength into everybody listening. So I want to thank you for coming on, man. I really do.
Appreciate it.
I
Thank you.
actually, yeah, absolutely, brother. Anytime. I actually wrote down those tangibles, and so if you want to recap on those tangibles, obviously go listen back to it again in detail. But really, just living by your schedule and being disciplined to do that. What's on the calendar, you do.
Yep.
Right. Don't be afraid of growth and moving on because that's growth in life, making progress. And the fact of just doing the thing, just doing it each and every day, growing and growing, you have to. So brother, again, thank you so much. If you guys, again, go back to the beginning of this podcast where I talk about where you can go find Gabe, but you guys can find Gabe at Instagram at Gabe Wilson _23. Gabe, thank you so much, brother. I'm going to have you on again because there's so much more to share to your story, and your story is growing each and every day, brother. But I want to tell you, man, honestly, how proud of you I am as well. Right. So absolutely, man.
I'm blessed to
It's
call you Caitlin and Grayson family. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
absolutely, brother. We're blessed to have you in our lives too, man. You've again, your age is nothing. Your wisdom, we've compiled ideas together, and they've been great. So
Long time. For a long time, man.
Long time. So guys, you know exactly what you need to do with it. I just want you to know that you were born to do something great with your life. You were born to be special, and you were born to make a difference. And so for everybody listening, it is time to step into your confidence, step into your success journey, and go build what you want. It doesn't matter your age, 18, 40, you have the time. In 5 years will arrive, whether it's by where you're at right now or you're an entire different person. But the choice is yours. You take action, take the growth. Thank you guys for hopping on. Gabe, thank you so much, brother. You guys have a great day.